Every single F1 24 video against the 110% AI is always about somehow making it an even harder challenge, such as going from last to first. However, in this groundbreaking video, I'm about to try and beat the hardest difficulty on the F1 game with the rules turned off. Yeah, if you were unaware, I need all of the help that I can get. So this means that there are going to be some unbelievable crashes, even more insane corner cutting, and some extra rule breaking that I'm going to save for later in this video. And it's now time for you to see my very first attempt at this challenge, and as the lights go out, you can already tell that it's been a while since I've done a race on F1 24 because this start was just dreadful. Anyway, coming into the first corner, I knew that I had to try and make up as many places as possible, and then this happened. Yeah, honestly, I've got no idea what happened there, and trust me, you do not want to see some of the other failed attempts. It is now time for the main attempt of this video, and at the end of this race, you are going to see whether or not I can actually complete this challenge. As the 5 lights go out, once again, I had a very average start, but that would not matter for very long, because I'm about to send it out the inside of what would be half of the grid into turn 1. And although I've just gone from P20 to P10 in one corner alone, even more shockingly, Sergio Perez is actually in the top 10 of a Formula 1 Grand Prix. And it's now time for you to see one of the many track exploits that I'm about to abuse through corner cutting. Because the rules are turned off, I am able to chop off about 150 meters of turning in at turn 5 and braking, which is guaranteed to gain me some time, especially when we get into the later stages of this race where I make some crazy overtakes going through that corner. We're now going along the first DRS straight on this track, and I tactically saved my battery here because there is another corner cutting opportunity just up ahead, and we're going to go into the off-board shot to show you just how many cars I managed to overtake from a singular chicane. Coming into those two corners, I was 11th. However, as we return to the onboard footage, I'm now up to P6, fighting quite literally wheel on wheel with Lewis Hamilton. I tried to force Lewis into defending the inside line at turn 9, however he did not do that, and for some reason after this I decided to try and do a switchback against the 110% AI driver. Yeah, that was not my smartest move, and it led to me slamming into the wall and falling back into P9. However, even if I finished this lap in P9, I would still consider it a massive success, but what I wasn't going to do was just relax for the rest of this lap, because every position gained is crucial in this race. As you just saw, I tried to basically wipe out Alonso going through the double left-hander, but I did still have one place where I could make an overtake on lap 1. As you can see, I can completely disregard the final corner and use the pit entry as an apex, which unfortunately did not make me overtake Fernando Alonso. However, it did gain me a hell of a lot of time, and as we start lap 2, I was now comfortably within a second of the Spaniard, and DRS is now turned off. It's now time to make another bit of progress. Coming into turn 5, I was half a second behind Fernando Alonso. However, after this corner cut where I got a very good exit, I was now just behind him along the back straight. I actually decided to use quite a lot of my battery along this straight, because even though I knew that I wouldn't overtake Fernando Alonso here, I knew that I would do just this at the chicane, and I had to stay within touching distance. Which is exactly what I did. I was honestly pretty cautious going along here because I desperately didn't want to spin, but even because of this, I managed to initially make 3 overtakes, which was fantastic. However, I sadly couldn't quite keep Carlos Sainz behind me, and then because I was wheel locking with him to slow him down, George Russell just absolutely flew past me. So I had only gained 1 position from that track exploit, but the lap was not over just yet. Once again, I ran wide out of the exit at turn 9, and I decided to hang back momentarily because I had a couple of ideas lined up to try and get past George Russell. My first one was basically trying to completely wipe him out at the first of the 2 corners at the double left-hander, but sadly that did not work, so it was now time for option number 2. And this is to once again cut off a massive part of the racetrack, this time at the pit entry, and as you can see, smash into George Russell, which massively slowed him down. We are now back onto the normal camera shot, and as you can see, I am now just behind him. I absolutely sent out the inside of George into turn 1 and abused all sorts of track limits, and after 2 laps on one corner, I was now into the top 7 of this Grand Prix. So we're actually going to speed up this footage once again until the chicane, because to be honest, nothing really happened in this first sector and part of the middle sector. This is because in these 1.5 sectors, there are actual corners, and I could just never keep up with the 110% AI because I stink at this game. Anyway, after forcing Russell to take a tight entry to the chicane, I almost slammed into Carlos Sainz when cutting these 2 corners, which could have been disastrous, but fortunately I avoided him. And after almost spinning on the exit, I was now tucked up just behind Max Verstappen, but sadly I did not have DRS, which led to Lewis Hamilton going side by side with me going through turn 9. And I unfortunately just had to concede position to him, but after an attempt on both lap 1 and lap 2, I knew that it was finally time to use the double left-hander to my advantage. Going into turn 12, I patiently waited until I could slam into the back of Lewis Hamilton Hamilton and I attempted to put him offline, which worked just perfectly. I then drove over the apex at turn 13 and to put it simply, I drove Lewis Hamilton off of the racetrack. He came to a standstill, I'd got past him and this would be my final overtake on lap 3, but that is absolutely fine by me as I now have 2 laps to go to try and overtake 4 cars and therefore complete this challenge. And just to give me even more belief that I could complete this challenge, I just set the fastest lap of the race, which to be fair really should be expected considering some of the lines that I'm taking. However, this was still fantastic because on that previous lap I did have a couple of areas where I was held up. And ahead of me on lap 4 I now had a couple of seconds where I could just wait for my chance to get past Max Verstappen. And we are now at the very place where I would overtake the Dutchman, and this might have been the only time in this entire challenge where I was able to fully send it over the chicane with no ramifications, and it worked out perfectly. I managed to get past Max and I had now completely closed the gap down to the front 3 drivers who were in a mini train at the front of this race with 1 lap and 1 sector to go, and this was it. I now had to make every single corner from now on count. Coming into turn 12 and the final sector, all I was planning to do was just hang back from the 110% AI. However, Lando Norris locked up going into turn 12 and I had to take my chance, and I managed to slice my way past him and just about avoided Oscar Piastri. This overtake put me into 3rd position and we now just have 1 lap to go. But before we get into the start of lap 5, I was about to take another massive risk. Hello, just a reminder, please subscribe because at 20,000 subscribers, Jarno Opmeer may or may not have said that he will 1v1 me on a controller if I hit it this month. Thank you so much, and back to the video. And I didn't know this at the time, but look how close I was to wiping out myself and Lando Norris. However, I just about managed to survive. I'd also just set another fastest lap of the race and I was in a fantastic position behind Oscar Piastri, and I now truly believe that I could win this race. Now for this first sector I realised that I had to be extremely tactical and I tried to save a little bit more of my battery, and this was because I knew that I would need it for both of the DRS straights. And the second conscious decision that I made was for the first time in this challenge I wasn't going to cut turn 5. This was because I was worried about messing up my exit out of that corner, and this turned out to be a fantastic decision. And this is because even though I had to use my entire battery to stay just under 2 seconds away from Charles Leclerc in the lead of the race, I was still ahead of Lando Norris. But all of this did not really matter as I was about to once again send it over the chicane, and I did just that and I was instantly into the lead of the race. This was ideal, however I had no DRS or any ERS left and Charles Leclerc was only half a second behind me and I was about to come across some pretty bad news. Going through this long left-hander I instantly felt like I had 0 grip and I checked my tyre temperature and my rear right tyre was 107 degrees. And I now knew that holding on to the lead of this race was going to be super difficult. But to be fair, I was still in first place. Into turn 12 I wanted to gain a little bit more lap time and I desperately tried to abuse the track limit, which was a disaster. This is because on the exit of the double left-hander I just could not turn in and there were now 2 corners to go. I was in 3rd place and I needed a miracle to win this race. I had done it. Let's just have a look at the off-board shot. I mean, I genuinely have no idea how I didn't manage to crash there, but that was the challenge completed. Thank you all so much for watching and I will see you next week.